Hello everyone and welcome. Thank you for joining today's webinar, Adobe Target Skill Builder, Adaptive Fine-Tuned Personalization at Scale with Adobe Target and Analytics. Today's session is approximately 60 minutes and is being recorded for future on-demand viewing. During the presentation, you may enter questions at any time in the Q&A pod on the left side of your screen. We will address your questions as we go along and also at the end as time permits. And now I'd like to hand the session over to today's host, Drew Burns, Group Product Marketing Manager with Adobe. Go ahead, please, Drew.
Thank you, Sally, and hello, everyone. Let me just begin by saying, in these unprecedented times, I hope everyone is safe and sound, holding tight. I think we all realize that adaptive fine-tuned personalization at scale is absolutely mission critical these days as we see changing behaviors in audience segments, digital visitors, new visitors, as well as existing customers. And we have made advancements in Adobe Analytics and Adobe Target that now allow you to take action with intelligence on those segments as you see them behaving differently or to address their needs, and then to be able to fully validate the use of AI for decisioning with the full breadth of reporting with analytics. So we're excited to share all of that with you. And I have an esteemed guest, literally the Jedi of these two applications, if there is one, Brian Hawkins, and I'll let him introduce himself. But we're really pleased, have a lot to cover today, so I'm just going to dive right in. Let me just begin by saying, please do join us a little over a week for November 10th for an on-device decisioning announcement webinar. We're continuing to develop our implementation to address needs in terms of different environments, and this is latency-less, zero latency on-device decisions with Adobe Target, and we're excited to share that with you. It's literally releasing today, and so please do join us for that webinar. It's going to be really interesting to hear about how you can do client-side and server-side implementations and even on-device decisioning all within a single account, which allows you to adapt at scale. So very, very relevant to the subject of today. So as mentioned, I'm Drew Burns. I'm Group Product Marketing Manager for the Adobe Target application. I've been in the space for many, many, many years. And Brian Hawkins, literally the Jedi, Obi-Wan Kenobi of personalization. He's going to be introducing himself in a little bit, but we are honored to have him join. He has tips, tricks, best practices around using these applications together and AI features of Target that he's going to share from the trenches, working with some of our leading brands. So when you think about adaptive fine-tuned personalization, we're familiar with testing, we're familiar with rules-based targeting, but it's really AI and machine learning that can help us. It is like the decisioning brain. We've literally seen enterprise companies reduce the number of activities they need and keeping personalization always on and adaptive using our AI and ML activities. And so we're going to run through what are the use cases there, what are the benefits of that, and then having analytics, back-end integration, and leveraging the same data, the same profile, allows you, when you see a segment, we're seeing digital volumes accelerate right now, literally Black Friday and Cyber Monday levels of traffic as customers are coming to digital properties with new needs, urgent needs, and brand new visitors to digital. And so we need to quickly adapt and personalize those experiences. That's the role that AI and ML can help with, helping you to be more adaptive, to think about content in a different way, not to use explicit rules where needed or to test new experiences, but then to be able to adapt based on the individual, their profile, and letting the algorithm help you do that with full transparency in terms of reporting with analytics. So that's really the benefit there. It also allows you to do ad hoc reporting on the fly after the fact, after you run an activity, to ask all the questions you need and fully validate the full impact, not just of click-through and conversion, whatever that conversion event is, whether it's a point of sale or a sign-up or a registration, but all the steps in the customer journey beyond that activity. So this is what's going to help us adapt. This is what's going to allow us to quickly make changes that we need right now for segments and also to optimize for the future. The use cases that we see customers diving into right now is obviously to increase digital adoption. How can we accelerate, make things more relevant, increase app downloads, and provide better service to get someone to what they need and to have them come back and see where they left off in the experience. Proactive communication, so promote guidance and educational content. And then optimize customer service and self-service. We literally had companies, a media company in particular that I'm thinking of, that optimized a customer journey within 12 hours that was needed as customers were canceling sports packages because there weren't sporting events happening. They launched a new customer journey within their app using Adobe Target within a matter of hours, and we're saving millions in terms of call center costs. That also calls out the fact that having analytics plugged in means that you're fully validating not just the conversion lift, but also the cost savings that you are creating by showing the right content and also helping a digital customer self-service. And so these are the things that we need, the tools that we need to not just be able to deliver consistently the best experience, but then to also be able to socialize the impact that we're driving. That is what Adobe Target with our AI and ML features built in with Adobe Analytics provides. Massive, puts the tools in your hands that you need. So if you're in analytics and you're looking at the digital experience, you might be looking at a fallout report, let's say there's a customer journey and you're watching all the steps that a customer's taking through the experience. You might want to right-click at some point in that journey where you're seeing someone drop off and create a sequential segment. Brian's going to show that in a little bit. And then you can pass that into Target. With the insurance, it's the same audience segment. So that's the bidirectional, synchronized relationship that we have between Adobe Analytics and Adobe Target that allows you to take action off of those insights. Same is true of a page flow report, where you might have laid out steps that a customer is taking through the experience, and you can right-click there and take action off of that audience segment. And then there's all types of AI built into analytics as well that can help surface up those audience segments that you may want to engage it with. Anomaly detection will help you see, oh, here's a segment that's acting in an appreciable way, be it a really positive way, or they're bouncing from the site. They're that into Target. Or propensity modeling. You might be doing predictive analytics and find a segment that's very, very highly predictive of taking a specific action, and you want to pass that into Target to take action. And Brian will show examples of that as well. As I mentioned in the webinar coming up on November 10th, another plug, there's a lot of flexibility to place Target exactly where you need it throughout the customer experience. That includes web, all types of apps, even in IoT. So email, any ESP provider, digital kiosks, screens, consoles, set-top boxes, in single-page applications. We've got client-side and server-side options, and now on device as well. So there really isn't any excuse not to have Target there. Have a progressive, unified profile that allows you to take action and even decision in the moment, no matter where a customer is interacting. And when you look at that profile, it begins at first touch. We shouldn't just be thinking about personalization when we know that individual. AI and ML can help you when you have a lot of anonymous traffic. And you want to say, okay, what from this data that we have initially is the most predictive to show this next best experience? And that's where AI and ML can move beyond the more explicit rules-based targeting and help you look at this data that we're collecting. There's things like category affinity, where someone's spending time on a site. Think about how powerful that is when they come back to a homepage or when they come back to the website a little bit later to show them where they left off or show them the category that's just right for them, or make sure the navigation or the list of content that you're showing, recommended content or products, reflects their interests and the interest that they've expressed. So even if it's anonymous, we still have this information about their behavior and their preferences that we're collecting as they engage. So we can do more. I think we're familiar with the sort of manual testing and rules-based targeting that we can do with Target. For rules-based personalization strategy, obviously you can build those business rules and create an audience, or even augment an audience that comes from analytics to make sure you create that targeted business role. You can also take in CRM data, so there's account and profile information. If you know who the customer is, or you know the IP that they're accessing through from a business, to be able to do account and profile personalization. And then, as I mentioned, we're collecting all this information about where they're browsing, behavioral information that we can then use, even dynamically based on scores, to show them what they're most likely to want to engage with next. It's a guided workflow for all the activity types, so all the manual as well as all the AI and ML. Recommendations is literally built into our visual experience composer. So as you're building the experiences on a site, you can use recommendations right there and select that, build recommendations right there as you're building the experience. And then in the targeting, that second step, you can say manual, or you can use our AI and ML to speed to the best experience for an audience or an individual. And we'll go into what those use cases are. And then the third step becomes super easy if you've got analytics. You just click analytics, and you've got all that rich reporting that you're familiar with in analytics to fully validate the impact. So recommendations, not just for products. It's not just what product I'm on. Think about it as it can be based on my browsing history, so more recommended for you recommendations. It can be content that we're showing to a customer for self-service or for support. It can be additional services that we're showing. You can even recommend specific categories that someone may want to go back to. It's very, very versatile. The algorithms that we have out of the box are highly customizable to make sure you can use it for that next best experience or to take somebody back to where they left off. Auto-allocate is a multi-arm bandit, and this is going to take you, it's going to divert traffic to the winner during a test. So rather than waiting for a test and to compare and contrast all the variations, if you're just trying to find that winner faster with less traffic and to take testing into an area of the site that may have less traffic, you can just opt for auto-allocate, and AI and ML will take you there faster and at a higher conversion lift. And then there's a random forest ensemble, auto-target, for those instances where you have several different options that you could show, and there's just too many rules, or you want to be able to address a high volume of anonymous traffic, and you want to make sure each individual is shown that next best experience. This AI and ML is right there for you to be more adaptive, to reduce the number of activities that are required, and to keep personalization always on. So let's take a look at a site. I can walk you through these and talk about some use cases. So in the case of auto-allocate, you may have a banner or a new experience, some new function on the site, and perhaps it's a risk, or you're trying to be bold. We need to be bold these days to provide what customers need. It will reduce the risk by diverting traffic away if the experience is not hitting its mark. So it allows you to be more creative. This is the kind of thing you can take back to the creative team and say, don't throw away those risky options. Let's give it a try. Or if we've got 5 or 6 different versions of a campaign, let's put it in here. Again, the best version will be selected. And again, it allows you to do it with less traffic, and it finds the winner faster and diverts away from those versions that are not hitting their mark. Auto-target. Think about this in terms of the entire design. We had one retail customer where there were certain contractors coming for specific products, others that were coming for DIY articles. And so you can put the entire design of a page into auto-target, and the DIY articles would be surfaced up higher for those that are interested in the articles versus those that want to see recommendations for specific products. So it's a great way not just to decision between different variations of a specific banner. It can also help adapt the page and what's being prioritized. Oftentimes, we'll personalize recommendations farther down on the page. Perhaps bringing that up and making that the masthead makes it easier for somebody to find what they're looking for, to get back to what they want to show, a spouse or a family member before they purchase. It's also good for prioritizing navigation. You can put the nav elements in there. Rather than it being static, it's being prioritized based on the individual. So it really is a good navigational tool and a design tool to help you make sure the design is meeting the needs of each individual, whether you are aware of the audience that's predictive or you wanted to look at all of that data. And then finally, again, recommendations, think about it beyond the product. Think about it as a bookmark in the experience. It can show that next best category. If as an option, you can test these recommendations to see which one is hitting its mark. And then it can also be used for customer support and customer service in terms of articles. So an example that you can take a look at right now is the Adobecom Experience. We used to show everything on the site: Creative Cloud, Document Cloud, Experience Cloud. We had small, medium businesses, enterprise businesses, students, professional photographers, all with very different interests. Now you're put into a lobby experience where literally those experiences are adaptive. Now we can pull in whatever content or source any content. In this case, we're using experience fragments from Experience Manager, which are rich templated content that we can adapt very quickly. But we can pull in whatever content you point to, and then Target's algorithms can decision on, okay, here's a student, they've been playing around with the Photoshop tutorials. Let's show that in that first slot. And so someone seeing something that's relevant based on their current investment, what they've messed around with or what they've looked at recently, it becomes an adaptive lobby experience every time someone comes back. And then we're able to fully qualify not just click-through, but all of the metrics that matter, including performance, using analytics on the back end. So super powerful to be able to then take all of these activities, even the AI and ML, drill in with analytics. We even have a dedicated dashboard and analysis workspace that allow us to stack up those metrics side by side to see the impact down the journey. Using Target creates 25x ROI often on average, based on someone spending $1 can see $25 or more in lift. And one of the great benefits too of having the analytics integration is where there is a data variance, and it can be up to 35% between a third-party analytics tool with an optimization or personalization tool. We reduce that to nothing. I mean, it's synchronized. You can feel fully confident you're seeing the same data in both products. So lots of benefits in this integration. And to tell you more about that, I hand it over to Brian.
Cool. Thank you, thank you, Drew, and thank you all for joining today. Appreciate the time. Very, very excited to talk to you guys about analytics and Adobe Target. I come from the trenches. I come and a lot of the examples and use cases that I'm going to be diving into today stem directly from organizations like yourselves, leading, forward-thinking, making the use out of the two technologies together. I've been using these two products way before they've been Adobe Target and Adobe Analytics. I actually come from Informatica, which is now the Adobe Target solution, which was acquired by Omniture in like 2006. Had a variety of roles over the years, mainly in the consultative client services, helping organizations get testing solutions in place and kind of embed testing and personalization optimization into their organization. I've had the good fortune to work with some of the most leading edge companies around the world. I specialize in helping organizations realize real-time ROI in terms of like their optimization investments in people, process, and technology. A lot of my work over the last couple of years have been focused on automation, and so I have a lot of examples, again, including a couple of case studies that I'm going to jump into today. I'm also an author, co-author of a book on Adobe Target, the only book on the platform, and I also co-founded a software company called Mia Proba that literally helps organizations scale. It's more, workflow, test ticket management, and many of you might be familiar with the Mia Proba Chrome extension, which is very, very popular in the Adobe Target community. So let me start off by jumping into exactly what is A4T, if you will. Best way to kind of think about it, is the best analogy is the bridge between the islands of Adobe Target and Adobe Analytics. At a high level, it's the bidirectional relationship between analytics and personalization. Bidirectional, where both solutions are speaking to each other and enabling a universal profile. It's a server-to-server unification that is taking place. I often get questions from clients, including one very late last night from an organization, insurance company on the West Coast, that is seeing a lot of value using some of these automated capabilities within Adobe Target. They want to take those mechanisms and they want to bring it into their mobile apps, but they had some concerns about being able to kind of see all the data and all the value that automation is bringing in. So for this particular organization, A4T was a very simple answer for them to be able to kind of turnkey, be able to tap into all of those particular metrics that are already there. A4T eliminates really inefficient duplicative efforts to go in to find metrics in one solution and then kind of compare and contrast that to what those definitions are within another solution. For me, and for the organizations that I work with, A4T has made testing and running activities within Adobe Target considerably easier. It frees up the testing team, and I'll have more on this a little bit later, to focus on testing versus having to focus on metrics and audiences and all that good stuff. The other thing that A4T does is it makes analysis considerably easier by tapping into the ecosystem, the dashboards, the reporting that already exist. The other thing, and I'm going to touch on this in a few minutes, is that A4T enables something that an optimization and a personalization solution cannot do on its own. It enables a mechanism to kind of optimize the optimization program, essentially creating a mechanism to see how the program is doing, provide visibility into what's working, what's not working, where tests are running, but I'll have more on that in just a few minutes. To highlight the bidirectional value that these two solutions work together with, I'm going to highlight a use case of taking analytics and power data and pushing that to Adobe Target by way of the Experience Cloud. Now, typically organizations, when they hear A4T, they think, okay, cool, I could see my test results in Adobe Analytics. Okay, that's cool, but that's only part of it. What organizations are doing, and this particular use case that I'm going to be jumping to in just a second, highlights the value of bringing some of the rich data, the rich analyses, and sharing them to Adobe Target to make use of within automation. It's kind of a strategic weapon of sorts. There's a lot of companies that are making use of the 4 different flavors of automation available within Adobe Target. But those companies that are finding strategic niche audiences within Adobe Analytics and giving them to automation within Adobe Target are seeing considerably more value, and I'll show you that in just the next slide. High level, Drew touched on this, but I wanted to just kind of highlight a few different examples of just exactly what automation is. There's 4 different flavors of it. Automation, in my opinion, kind of differentiates testing solutions from optimization and personalization solutions. It's a fundamental component needed for any organization if they're going to be able to scale effectively and be able to take advantage of digital surges like now and other areas to kind of make use of data automatically. Just quickly here, auto allocate. This is where your target will automatically shift traffic at a segment level to the better performing experience. Several companies that I work with only use this activity type. They don't rely on A/B testing with just mutually exclusive groups. They campaign maximization, they call it, where they basically have target automatically shift traffic, kind of exploit those learnings in real time. Recommendations. This is something that has got a new life, so it's by way of A4T. Typically SKU-based, article-based, but I'm seeing a lot of financial institutions and even including retailers that are kind of re-energize this by way of A4T by shifting audiences over to Adobe Target to make use of, to hyper refine what recommendations are being suggested to organizations. Auto target, Drew touched on this automatically. My big takeaway for this is that it's at an individual level, which is auto allocate. It's optimizing at the segment level. Auto allocate takes it a step further and brings it down to the individual level. And then just like very similar to automated personalization, automated personalizations is at the individual level as well, making content decisioning and based off of what it knows from that particular individual. Now, with auto target and automated personalization, you get something like this. The first thing up here, this is where we get an understanding of, does automation work? Is making model-based content decisioning having a positive impact on my given success event? And that success event can also be a metric that you're using in Adobe Analytics. This has kind of empowered a lot of organizations that have key metrics in analytics that they want to kind of optimize and have model-based decisioning on. This report down here, this is something called an insights report. This is what the models of Adobe or Auto Target and automated personalization think about. And what they're exposing here is a little bit of the black box. What are the data attributes that Adobe automated personalization, Auto Target using to make the content decisioning? So this here, pretty interesting. I mean, there's some things here like browser window width, screen height, or what have you. But a lot of organizations might find this kind of boring, that it's kind of like not terribly exciting to kind of see this. It is valuable because the models are picking up on something in terms of what to show visitors based off of these particular visitor attributes. But the real value lies in what I'm going to highlight next is if you strategically go into Adobe Analytics and find key different audiences and feed them the Experience Cloud to make use of within Adobe Target. That's where you kind of feed the beast, if you will, okay? Now, there is a lot here. So the insights report that I highlighted on the previous slide, that was just one example. What I have here is 4 different insights report across different industries, different organizations, different success events. I've broken them down by different types of data types. So the red box, as you can see here, we're breaking it down by, geo, visitor-based attributes, and then technographic attributes, things like, browser, operating system, day of the week, or what have you. So all 4 of these insights reports and the automation here is delivering value for these organizations. You can see here in this first one here, 43% lift, 13 million visits. The distribution in terms of data is very heavily dependent on geo. This was a very specific use case for the organization, specific to geo was a very key component. So it wasn't that much of a surprise that the models kind of honed in and grabbed onto the geo being the kind of primary factors in terms of making the content decisioning. I'm going to jump down here to see. This is where we could see, again, lift in terms of, model-based decisioning against random decision content. Not as much traffic. This didn't run as long. But you can see here the models did grab on to a few different things. So this was a technology provider. They sell equipment to support organizations and hardware and things along those lines. You can see the things that they grabbed onto. Browser, operating system. Again, interesting stuff, but maybe not super exciting to kind of take away with. But again, the models are finding different things to kind of hone in on and to make content decisioning. Now, what I want to highlight here on the right, B and D, are 2 different examples of where organizations took the initiative to feed the models more data. Okay, here on the top, look at this one. 448 million visits, more people than live in the United States. Pretty cool and powerful. So these guys are seeing over 75% lift. And if you look at the distribution of data that exists here, considerably less honing in and clamoring onto technographic data, and a much more presence in terms of visitor data here. I've anonymized this to keep, to respect organizations' privacies, and I don't disclose companies' information. And this other use case here, version D, we've got a 14% lift with 10 million visits. This one is very impressive in terms of like the amount or the percentage or ratio of attributes that are focused on visitor data. So these 2 organizations were able to strategically kind of plan. They look at the content decisioning or the content that's being used in personalization, and they actually kind of feed that to the engine, and it's paid pretty significant dividends to them, because these visitor attributes, which are, it's a mixture of things, but they're all kind of specific to the organization, specific to their visitors. So the type of customers that they are, other different things like, account balances, loyalty program membership, other kind of metadata around the particular individuals. they've taken that and kind of come up with hypotheses, push these to the Experience Cloud, and without having to specifically tell Target anything or tell this activities anything, the models automatically kind of glamored onto it. So they can take this data and repurpose it and take these audiences and reuse them for kind of more personalized or subsequent. So small investment in terms of taking the time to get these audiences into the Experience Cloud will pay some pretty significant dividends. The thing I alluded to earlier in terms of a foundational framework, this is something, and I'll get back to automation in just a few slides here, but I wanted to highlight a significant takeaway for all of you on the phone today and how you can use A4T to put a massive ROI, not just on testing and activities, but on the program as a whole to make things more efficient, to allow significant more throughput, and just significant more value overall in terms of learnings. Now, the framework here is something that we use at Mia Prova. So Mia Prova, I talked to earlier, is a software company I co-founded. It helps organizations manage test ideas, manages assigning tests to developers to develop, creates a knowledge base and things like that. And at Mia Prova, we make massive use of A4T. It's really kind of changed the way that we do things, and we've re-architected things to keep up with A4T. When the Adobe I/O was released, we've adjusted the foundation to do it. But what I'm going to walk through here is how all of you today can use that framework or these components to achieve some of the benefits. So the things that I'm going to outline here will allow the organizational alignment, and I'll get into what that is. Provide standardizations for scale. Create methods to mitigate potential risk, but also set up things where there's accountability. We can see exactly, okay, are we making enough use of Adobe Target? Are we running activities to the key audiences? Are we taking advantage of these particular metrics? Are these metrics being used for that sort of thing? So this framework will provide a metric and the methods by which you can kind of establish this kind of evaluation. You will also realize more throughput. Those organizations that adopt this model and use this are seeing about 30% more tests. They're also seeing significant decreases in ratios in terms of activity versus non-activity initiatives. So a lot of organizations are using Adobe Target for content management. This framework supports that, but also it refocuses the goal to leverage Target for all the cool things that it does in terms of optimizing, moving the needle, impacting metrics, or what have you. So the first component of this that I'm going to get into is kind of a standardization, okay? So A4T does something that those of you that are analysts that might not be as familiar with the day-to-day of Adobe Target and how reporting and test visibility works, the first thing that it does is it takes all of your Adobe Target activity metadata and makes it as full dimensions. For the analysts on the phone, this is list bars. This is where you get your list variables. You get all of these related to your Adobe Target activities. It may seem silly, some of these different standardizations, but this allows organizations to immediately tap into all of the metrics, the calculated metrics, all the data that is currently being used, the single source of truth, it's already being filtered for bots, and where there's an organizational understanding in terms of what does an order thank you page, what is an average order value, things along those lines. From the Adobe Target community, this is huge. We don't have to reinvent things. We don't have to set up metrics with each time. And this was like a game changer. Historically, organizations, what they had to do is, and I've had to do this for years, you set up a test and set up all of your success events and make sure that they're included and incorporated with each time. This also kind of frees up the ability to kind of worry about whether it's server side, client side, if the test is running in mobile app or what have you. It's turnkey. It's just automatically, which kind of frees up the focus to focus on the test and test execution. So what I want to highlight here as a to-do is to create a Workspace project for a single test. Create a beautiful, lovely template. You're going to create copies of this template with each activity that you execute within Adobe Target. Also, create an aggregate Adobe Analytics Workspace project so you can kind of see an aggregate view of your tests and how they're doing. And I've got examples of where that comes into play in just a few slides. Activity conversions. This is something, one of my favorite components of the A4T unified profile that exists with these particular two solutions. So I come from a target world. I come from, like, with that myopic focus, everything's kind of defined in terms of, okay, how am I going to create this success event in Adobe Target? How am I going to use this particular Adobe Target audience? What have you? Activity conversions changes that. This is where you can incorporate metrics. And truth be told, not all metrics will exist in Adobe Analytics, or the testing team may not be familiar with what that metrics looks like or how to access it within Adobe Analytics. So this is empowered in organizations. So when you select an activity to be A4T, so you want the reporting and analytics, you get a free bonus success event. I'm going to recommend, and just kind of put it out there, it's a little controversial, don't select use an analytics metric here. Kind of a waste. You're getting all of that data anyways in analytics. If you were to select in a conversion, you then can use things like the visual editor, and you can create click tracking as needed. You can use profile attributes that are within the target world and keep them and kind of associate them with your success event. All of this bonus free success event will then show up in Adobe Analytics Workspace and Adobe Analytics Classic Reporting as activity conversions. It's really, really powerful, and my customers are seeing a lot of value, and it's been very, very helpful for them to standardize, but also to kind of expose the visibility of these particular success events within Analytics Workspace. One thing I want to notate here, when you do select activity conversions, it's very important that the attribution model you choose is same touch. That's just kind of I don't want to derail things, but you can read all about attribution within Analytics Workspace on Adobe's website. But for Adobe Target, it's key to have same touch attribution. Next, I want to talk about audiences. This to me, and a lot of customers that I've talked to and have shared over the years, have had challenges, because before A4T, what would happen is organizations would have to predefine success events. They'd have to go into Adobe Target, define their 20 or 30 segments they want to analyze that for. There's no need to waste any time on that. There's no need to worry that and set that up for a test-by-test basis. Automatically, any of the audiences, the segments that you're using within Adobe Analytics is immediately available. This, from a tactical standpoint, this is huge and makes things a lot easier and frees up resources to also to focus on test strategy, allow you to get more value out of it. The other thing that audiences have done for the kind of core target community that aren't as regularly involved with analytics is to kind of expose personalization. It's been kind of like a jump start, if you will, to kind of personalization initiatives. There's key audiences that are being looked at within analytics, and by those things being standardized and kind of incorporating them to all of your Adobe Target activity dimensions, kind of creates immediate opportunities for organizations to kind of personalize. Here you can see a grid, and this is from a real client who realized that they were running tests on their homepage. And in the Adobe Target world, the audience was the criteria, the location of where the test is running, but there's so much more to it, as you all know. And so this being the homepage, you can see here that there are really stark differences in terms of geographic attributes, but also in terms of the type of customers that are onto the site. And so this report here has enabled organizations to have simultaneous, mutual exclusive activities within Target targeted to these particular audiences, or they use these particular audiences for the segmentation to find those nuggets of gold where one audience responds better to the other versus the others. Now, audiences are very, very, very easy to create and send to Adobe Experience Cloud to use within Adobe Target. Here you can see an example. In this particular instance, I'm looking at Adobe Target activity. I am sending this activity, visitors that participated in to this particular activity, sending them back to the Experience Cloud so I can kind of retarget them. This has opened the door for a lot of organizations to kind of go after them. I've got a case study a little bit later towards the end of the presentation where I'm kind of showing a company doing just this. So here, identifying key nuances, and here I'm using Adobe Target activities as the dimension, but it could be any of the data that you're reporting on within Adobe Analytics. This particular use case here that you're seeing with the GIF, creating the audience, this was shared back to Adobe Target so that we can kind of follow up with it with an automated personalization, auto-target activity actually for these particular visitors because of their engagement with the trial start. So the to-do here that I wanted to highlight is just go into analytics or talk to your analytics team, find 5, 7, key audiences, send them to Adobe Analytics or Adobe to the Experience Cloud, Adobe Target, and quickly set up monitoring campaigns. Familiarize yourselves with using these particular audiences, maybe even leverage them to do a quick start auto-target or auto-allocate activity too. Now, monitoring, the second component here, this is something that is usually the first impression in terms of understanding, oh, wow, I get a macro view in terms of all of the kind of tests that are taking place within my Adobe Target account. So those that are kind of primarily just going with Adobe Target, you can look at a test-by-test basis. But A4T kind of enables this macro view. One of the things you can do here, you're seeing this particular alert, is the ability to set up alerts based off of really any activity and any metric or calculated metric that is in your Adobe Analytics ecosystem. This has been huge. I've got one of my Mia Proba customers, what they've told me, it's a financial firm. The alerts that they've got and that you can configure here to get immediately when they happen is allow their organization to find winners a little bit easier. And I was like, well, what do you mean by that? Alerts kind of let you know and allow you to stop the bleeding and stop something bad from happening based off of whatever conditions you apply. And he said the alerts it gave their organization kind of the peace in mind to be a little bit more liberal in terms of their test designs. So instead of being able to, instead of doing kind of minor changes here and there, they were able to do a little bit more out-of-the-box things, which they historically wouldn't have been able to do without this kind of risk mitigation that's in place. This is easy to configure. As you can see here, it's just a couple clicks, and like any metric, you can even choose it by test. Hey, this test, you want to watch this particular metric. That sort of thing. Now, for those of you that use Analytics Workspace regularly, there are tons of different visualizations, lots of lovely things that you can do in terms of interpreting and capturing data. There's a lot that I've seen a lot of organizations do some fun things. I could probably spend an hour highlighting some really, really cool examples. So I wanted to grab this one here really quickly because it helps organizations realize how much they're using exactly in terms of the impact they're making. So this is a report, a Venn diagram within Workspace, where basically I grabbed all the activities, visits that were in an Adobe Target activity, and put it within all visits to the site. So this particular organization, they're testing, optimizing, personalizing less than 10% of the traffic. They're getting like 5.6 million visits to their site, but they're only 558,000 are actually participating in activities. So these type of things expose opportunities, but also expose utilization, audience participation, test by test participation, things along those lines. Now, in the kind of realm of visualizations and kind of consuming data related to Adobe Target activities, Adobe released recently this mobile scorecard. So within Analytics Workspace, you can go and create activities based off of or create projects to analyze your reporting or analyze your activities any which way that you want. Earlier, the to-do that I recommended was create a template or a project for each task, but then an aggregate one. Here you can create a mobile scorecard. And so here you can design it any which way that you want. And these are actual screenshots of my mobile scorecard of activities that I have running within MiaProvo and within the Chrome extension or what have you. You can design this any which way that you want, but a lot of organizations, some of my customers weren't aware of this feature, this functionality. It's cool. You can see how your tests are doing and kind of in the right from the mobile app within your phone. And the app is actually pretty slick. Now, I'm going to jump into this example pretty quickly here because there's a lot to it that I want to make sure, and this is one of the big takeaways that I want to pass through today. This is what enables and probably the most powerful component that A4T brings to the organization. Test analysis, pushing audiences to the Experience Cloud to use an Adobe Target activities is powerful. It's kind of game changing and a significant differentiator from other solutions. But we can also look at the program as a whole. So on the right here, this particular image is some of the different things. This is one of the more popular dashboards within the MiaProvo application. You can see the number of tests that are running and things like that. But what A4T allows you to do, and I'm going to show you exactly what you need to do to kind of take advantage of this, you can get a sense within A4T Analytics Workspace. What ideas are leading to the biggest gains? What is our win rate over time? What teams are running the most tests or activities, I should say? How many activities we do month over month? What does the distribution of activities look like? So again, A4T is taking the analysis back to kind of like the program level. This allows organizations to keep their learnings a lot easier, bubble up their learnings. It stops like the duplicative testing the same concept over and over and over again. It ensures that test results are not lost. A little bit tactical, but very, very easy to do. You do not have to do any change of implementation. You don't need to upgrade your AT.js or do anything like that. Within Adobe Analytics, assuming you're an Adobe Analytics admin, simply go to the Report Suite Manager. It's one of the top drop-downs. Then you'll see within the particular Report Suite where you're using A4T, conversion classifications. Now, here are the organizational fields. These are the ones that we use in MiaProvo, but you can be very specific in terms of whatever's important to your business. I've seen organizations do a lot of cool components here. Simply define them there. Then regularly within the classification importer, you can upload any of the metadata associated with your Adobe Target activities. So things like, what was the outcome of the particular test? Where was the test run? What worksheet? What was the idea source? The audience that's being used or what have you. This is the type of reports that you'd be able to see. This creates mechanisms to analyze the program at a macro level. So here's just a very simple free-form table within Analytics Workspace. And what you're able to do is organizations can quickly, hey, show me all the tests that have run on the homepage. Then also, show me the ones that were classified as significant winners or significant winners, if you will. You can then bring in any other type of dimension or analysis that you're doing. Here you can see, this is an example from an organization that has their testing teams broken down by geographic. And here we can see that the U.S. is doing very, very well. APAC is not doing so well here, so it's probably an issue with the classification importer now that I see it. But this gives you a sense of kind of some of the different things that you can do with a very simple exercise. This is the method that a lot of organizations to make sure that your test insights are not lost. Too often, learnings are sitting in inboxes, and this is a way to make sure that those type of things don't go away and that they're kind of forever part of your particular program. Now, jumping back to kind of automation, what I want to highlight here is something that A4T has enabled for a lot of organizations. The ability to kind of jump in the deep end, you know, to kind of make use of automation right away without having to spend months and many business cycles understanding testing and how it works and that sort of thing. The efficiencies that A4T brings, like the organizational standardizations around metrics and audiences and visibility into what's going on, the alerts, the kind of monitoring, the kind of impact and how things are going, have kind of set the stage for organizations to take that plunge into the deep end of the pool, if you will. Now, historically, what you're seeing here is kind of like a common understanding in terms of like it's popular. It's, you know, it's not to say the correct, but it's typically the evolution or the sophistication of testing for a particular program. You've got your A/B testing, you know, where your generalized learnings, you're doing your things. You know, maybe you shift to browser specific. Then you evolve to kind of behavior. Hey, if visitors did this, let's run a personalized activity towards them. Visitor ID stitching, which I don't want to derail, but that's something that you can do, a very, very awesome thing with Target that you can do. But automation, right here, because of the framework that's in place to mitigate risk, to take advantage and to automate right within those particular audiences, has allowed organizations to kind of jump in a little bit quicker than they normally would have. The other thing that A4T and where automation kind of comes into play is it allowed organizations to take advantage of customer journey optimization. So some of the leading companies that I work with and have the good pleasure to work with over the last 14 years, they have testing and optimization, personalization roadmaps specific to different stages of the customer's journey. A4T allowed them to make sure that those stages are unified, that we have the right activities targeted to these particular audiences. So this kind of model is applicable across, you know, retail, financial services, what have you, where you've got traffic that's unknown, you know nothing about them, and you want to get them to become known. Going back to that grid that I alluded to a little bit earlier, where you've got loyal customers, new customers, that sort of thing. So automated activities can be used along each step of these particular journeys to kind of advance things along. The same thing goes with like recommendations, auto-allocate, you know, A/B, experience targeted activities to kind of advance them along those different things. But automation has been a key component to kind of refine and maybe adjust audiences as they come across these particular stages. So I've got 2 more slides and I want to kind of hand it back to Drew here. This is a wonderful case study that I love. It's genericized to protect the company because the results and the learnings and just the value is proprietary to their business, but it was massive for them. For those of you not familiar with Adobe Target's category Affinity, I recommend doing a Google search or checking out within the Adobe blogs and within their help section. It's a wonderful mechanism to introduce an organization to models, to scoring, but Adobe natively makes this available. So every Adobe Target account has this ability to take advantage of affinities. You could define your affinities any which way that you want. This particular organization had like a couple dozen different affinities, but what we honed in on was the top 5. So the top affinities, and in this example here, you can see here gear affinity, men's clothing affinity, women, equipment. Really, they could be anything, you know, discrete categories, if you will. And so this particular organization, what we did is, and to give you a sense of scale here, there was 500,000 visitors participated in this 6-week exercise. $10 million worth of revenue went through it. And what we found is at an aggregate level, things were statistically flat against a lot of their key metrics. And we had that visibility thanks to A4T. But we did find that those that engaged with that particular content as part of A4T, or as part of the category Affinity, wow, did the behavior and the impact of those metrics was massive. So, and without that type of cross-test and in-activity, I should say, in-activity engagement, visibility within A4T and Analytics Workspace, this wouldn't be possible. But we took that niche audience, put it back to the Experience Cloud, and now we're being able to evolve on that and kind of do some more automated concepts to kind of further refine and further make sure that these digital consumers have the most ideal experience for them. I'm going to finish up here before I hand it to Drew, but this is another to-do other than the making sure that the program and the classifications that I outlined earlier. Give auto allocation a try. I can't recommend this enough based off of what I've seen from those organizations that have adopted this. Here you can see traffic volume from some 2 Fortune 100 companies, and you can see here's the holiday season last year. Here's when the kind of like the people staying home and as part of COVID, and you can see the digital surge right here that Drew was talking about. With auto allocation during these peak times and the non-peak times and then the ups and downs, auto allocation can make sure that the kind of more ideal experience, it's a wonderful kind of introduction and it's part of Adobe Target Standard as well as Premium. So with that, I'm going to hand it back to Drew.
Thank you, Brian. Wow, that was awesome. Covered a lot of ground there. I am just going to leave with a little teaser because this is exciting stuff. We've seen using AI out of the box with Target, and obviously hydrating that with your data improves the decisioning. So think about all the data you can pass into the page if you're building profile scripts to capture attributes. If you're bringing in additional data, CRM, other offline data through Profile Update API or through customer attributes, or even the audiences you shared in, all of that is evaluated by the algorithms. So be sure as you're beginning to use the AI decisioning, and Brian touched on this, that you are hydrating it. We often get the question about bringing your own algorithms, and so I'll leave you with this. With recommendations, you can upload your own criteria and customize it based on the business rules as well as the inclusion and exclusion rules that we provide out of the box. So if you have a custom criteria or key that you want to use, there's a lot of companies that are doing this, and this allows you to further refine, further personalize the recommendations and how they're being delivered, and even use them alongside our algorithms. So that's something to think about. But even beyond that, we have a beta running right now with Data Science Workspace, which is an environment in the Experience Platform. Don't need to be an Experience Platform customer to take advantage of this. But it is the ability to publish in your own custom model into an auto-target activity. So this is huge in terms of an evolution of bring your own model, where let's say, benefit of auto-target, the algorithms there is to evaluate everything. You can really define how the data is being weighted or evaluated or grouped in its evaluation within a custom model in Data Science Workspace, which is the environment our data scientists use. Train it and publish it into an auto-target activity for custom activities. So this is something that if you're interested in, you have a data science team that's building these models, and that not just taking out the propensity scores and using them in Target, but actually publishing the model as a benefit might be something you want to take a look at. And so reach out to us for even further AI customization with this beta that we have currently taking place. And with that, we put special thank you to Brian, special thank you to all of you. Great questions. We weren't able to do Q&A live, but I answered almost all the questions, if not all of them, and I will also send out links as well as responses to those questions so you can see those with the recording link and other material following this webinar. And thank you, Sally, for hosting it.